In today's video, I have a Maytag direct drive washing machine. It has this style interface on it, but it could vary from model to model. This system is called a direct drive because it does not have a belt in it. We're going to be dealing with the F7E4 error code, the F0E5 error code, and both of those things basically mean this machine is not spinning right. It will spin a little bit, but it will not spin out. You could also hear a grinding noise or a really bad clicking noise that has to do with the fact it's a direct drive underneath. We're going to go check some parts and see what's wrong and then go ahead and replace them, or I'll at least show you how to replace them the right way. If you find out that you do need these parts, just check the description for the best price on those parts. There are two parts that are very common we have found on this machine that go bad, that are causing all of these issues. Lots of techs are fixing them. It's very expensive to have a tech do, but it is actually very affordable to do as a DIYer. So let's go ahead and get into this machine.
As noted with the codes, this fix may be useful for resolving the F0E5 code, the F7E1 code, and the F7E4 codes primarily. And if you don't know how to find those codes, make sure to check my other video about how to do diagnostics on this type of machine, and that will be in the description. To start, we need to access the motor underneath the washer, which means that we need to lay the washer on its side. Often this means that the hose could have water leak out of it. Sometimes you can get the water to drain by placing the hose closer to the floor, like I'm doing here as a precaution. And once you have this done, make sure the water hoses are off, the machine is unplugged so you can move the machine. You want to make sure that the machine can be laid gently on the ground, so I have some padding right here. Before you do this, you may want to put some tape on the lid to shut it, either some masking or painter's tape, as the lid will likely lift up once it's laid nearly flat on its back. You could lay it absolutely flat, but I have a block of wood behind this mat to pad it as I lay it down. And just make sure to gently place it down, and note that you could get some water coming out of the drain hose even after trying to drain it earlier, so I would have the bucket ready. Now with the machine laid down, you can look underneath. On a direct drive style machine like this, you should see these items or something very close to this underneath. If your machine has a plastic guard and belt behind it, then this video is not going to solve your problems. Everything will look vastly different on this machine than yours. I probably have another video addressing that style Maytag machine, so watch that video, not this one. At any rate, what we want to do is unscrew this stator bolt. On this Maytag unit, it has a T30 Torx screw holding it in place, which is a somewhat specialty screw. I'm using a Torx screwdriver to remove it, and I'll have a link to this screwdriver set that I use in the description. This was actually too easy to take off, which does worry me. Now, if you have issues removing the bolt, which generally you should, you may want to stick a second screwdriver into the holes of the rotor in between the clutch and the tub housing. It will prevent the rotor from moving, allowing you to have more torque. And if you can't get it off with a screwdriver, you may want to use a ratchet and plastic hammer to remove it. I did that on an LG front load rotor system a few videos ago, and this is what it would look like. Once you have the screw removed, you're going to need to pull on the rotor to remove it. It's magnetically locked to the stator on the inside. It takes a bit of force to remove it. The key here is to use your hands to pull evenly from each side, left and right or up or down, so the plate does not get forced onto one side and you want to pull it off evenly. I will tell you that the tub wanted to rock backwards, so I did brace my feet on the tub just out of view of the camera to pull it off. It went pretty well, but it was kind of difficult on this model. Now, once you have the plate off, you can investigate the stator system. You should look at the magnets on the stator as well as the copper collared coils for any damage. If you see burn marks or any sort of damage, you want to replace it. Check the rotor plate as well. Sometimes the magnets could be damaged or misplaced, causing the washing machine to make a grinding noise, which could also cause it not to spin up. Look at these magnets. This is a good working rotor system, so if it doesn't look like this, it could be damaged and you need to replace the motor or the stator as needed. And if that happens, note that the stator should actually have a 10-year warranty from Maytag, so look into seeing if they are under warranty and can be replaced free of charge. Next, now that we have the rotor system off, check and inspect the wires that are on this wire harness in the lower right corner of the stator. Sometimes the wires could be frayed, damaged, or displaced. Note that you will get part of a new wire harness when you replace the clutch on one side of the assembly, so if you do find these wires frayed, you may just want to get the new clutch system to replace the wires as well. But on any rate, we need to unplug the harnesses, then remove them from this metal connector piece. It took me forever on camera to unplug these by hand. My suggestion would be instead to unscrew the screw that's located here, and to remove that, you're going to need a 10mm socket for reference. It will allow you easier access to the back side of this harness, and it would be more simple than what I had to do. In order to remove those harnesses, there are small tabs on each side. Again, very difficult to do with a camera in your face. Once that's off, you want to take the magnetic clutch and stator off. The screws look an awful lot like 5/16, but the screwdriver that I normally would use, that is SAE or Imperial, will not work. Instead, I found that I had to use a 7mm socket wrench to remove the screws. There are 6 extremely long screws on the stator, 3 that hold the clutch into place on the tub, and then another 3 that handle the stator itself. You can take these off in any order. They are all the same length and style for reference. But once you have all 6 screws off, you may need to brace the stator and the clutch into place until you remove the last screw fully. Once you have that last screw removed, you should be able to simply pull the stator and clutch system on. Even though these pieces separate, they are kind of attached to each other on the tub. Going to the stator and clutch system at this point, you simply will turn the stator over and then slide the plastic tabs to the side on the wire trunk where the clutch is. Then remove the wires from the harness. I was a little bit rough on these tabs on the camera, which snapped a tab, but once done, you can separate the clutch and then install the new one to the stator. Note that the clutch can only be installed to the stator one way. There are some small posts on the stator itself, which let you know that it is aligned properly with the stator. The wires will point towards the trunk, and this is pretty straightforward to do. Once you have the clutch on the posts, you'll then snap the wires back into the plastic trunk. In my case, I had to install a cable tie, which I verified after the end of the video. It did not constrict the rotor system at all. Make sure that the peg of the wire tie is put to the outside of the harness so it does not rub against anything. Note on the clutch that there's no real way to test this with a multimeter. Like I try and fail here, I just have an open line. No matter what I did on the old or new shifter, I could not get a multimeter reading with it removed from the unit. The only way to really verify this easily was through the error codes. Generally, you're going to see an F7E1 or an F7E4 code. You could potentially test it from the board, but for the sake of time and sanity requirements, we are skipping that in this video. Now let's check the slider ring and clutch assembly system. This is both easy and tricky. We need to remove this small metal thin slider ring. I used a dental pick to wedge it in between the gear splines, in between the notches, and then press and pull the ring away from the gear. This is kind of hard to see on camera. You'll notice once I remove this ring, where the grooves are, the retainer clip sets in, and this was much harder than it looked. As a note, it took me 4 different tools before settling on this hooked pick to remove the ring. Again, very difficult. The key is being able to insert that pick into the grooves of the splines and then force the ring up and out. Once you have that done, the rest of the assembly is very easy to come off. You have the plastic ring and the spring to come off, then the plastic slider with the magnet. And this slider with the magnet often is a major culprit of the problem. The magnet on this has a tendency to shift and fall off or snap, and techs are seeing this more and more often. The nylon quality on the Whirlpool version is not that great. I do have a link to the new slider assembly in the description as well as the comments. I'm trying to work with some factories to improve the quality of this design. They're hydroscopic, which absorbs the water and causes the magnet to shift. So it seems like you only get like a 2 to 4 year lifespan out of these in most cases. With the new slider, you want to put it on the gear splines and thread it on correctly. The ridged side needs to face outwards like you see here on the video. Then you're going to unspring the spring pack and slider, and then you need to reinstall the metal ring clip. This was just as difficult to put on as it was taking off. It does not easily fit on, and it just seems like you won't be able to get it on no matter what you do. I found again that using the dental pick that I took it off with in the exact opposite way worked well. Put the ring on, then slide the hook into the gear splines and press it as hard as you can to force the clip onto the gear shaft into place. You'll need to work the hook around the ring to get it to fully snap in all the way, but once I got it to catch initially, it wasn't too hard. Next, we're going to put the clutch and stator system back into place. There are 6 holes on the gear case for the screws to sit in, and you need to line the stator up with these. Make sure that wire cluster is seated in the lower right corner, as the stator could be oriented and installed multiple ways, and then you won't have enough room with the wires. Begin to reinstall the 6 screws. 3 of the screws will hold the clutch onto the stator, and then 3 more will hold the stator onto the gear case, but they all screw into the tub. I would